What's up everyone, it's Ridehouse, and today I'm taking you through my time with GreedFall.
No one asked you for your opinion, so get lost!
GreedFall is a single-player fantasy RPG from developer Spiders, and like most Spiders games, it boasts some fun gameplay and a great story, but it's all a little rough around the edges. You play the part of the Legate of the Congregation of Merchants, a role that sees you heading off to a mystical island in search of a cure for a mysterious disease that is killing off your people, including Mummy Dearest. At the start of the game you get to create your own character, either male or female. There are a few options to choose from, and in true Spiders fashion, they all look a little bit off somehow. I can't quite explain it, but everyone in a Spiders game always looks a bit sick to me. You also get to choose a class, and they're based around using mainly melee weapons, mainly guns, or mainly magic. Though each class does also have a second weapon option they could use. For instance, I chose Mage, which meant I could also use one-handed blunt weapons, in addition to the magic rings I would be using to cast my spells. It can take a good couple of hours just to get through the first semi-tutorial area, the City of Serene, and that's if you do everything that there is on offer. I ran around exploring and doing some different quests, and all of them had a good story, and the characters felt like they had a history. There is also a lot of loot to be found, and I spent a good bit of time just running around opening crates and chests and selling what I found. One thing I do recommend you do is to turn off the camera effects. For some reason, they decided to put a really obvious head bob camera move in a third-person game, and it made me feel sick pretty quickly. Luckily, they added the option to turn it off in one of the recent updates, and after I did so, the sick feeling went away. When you're done in the city, you set off to the mysterious island, and this is where the game really begins. Your quest for a cure will send you all over the island. The game reminds me a little of the original Dragon Age, and one of the similarities is the map and the travel system. Instead of an entirely open world, the map is broken down into different regions, and you can travel between them from a few different places, such as at a camp or at the edge of the map. Travelling between these regions takes time, and this can have an effect on certain quests. Every time you travel, there's a sort of intermission screen where you can make a camp. You can manage a party of companions, who I'll talk about more in a moment, as well as craft weapon and armour upgrades, ammunition and potions. There's also a travelling merchant whose stock will regularly update, and you can also use him to offload all the junk you've picked up. Each region in the map is fairly large, and there is a nice amount of exploration involved. Most have a settlement of some sort to be found, and the ones that don't feel sufficiently remote or dangerous enough to explain why. There are enemies to be found here and there, and although there are a few notable boss type monster encounters that are pretty fun, most will mainly consist of animals like wolves, bats and bulls. There's also quite a lot of human enemies to butcher, and some are from different gangs or other factions, and these drop usable loot like new weapons and armors.
Is that right?
The combat in this game is semi-tactical, and by that I mean that you can pause during a fight to issue some commands. You can't really control your companions, but you will be able to line up key commands like using a certain skill, or using a potion that you don't have equipped on your hotbar. You have a couple of different bars to watch during the fight, and for the mage this means the mana, and another bar called the Fury, which builds up over time as you fight and then lets you unleash some special attacks. It does all feel a bit spammy at first, and for a while I didn't really do much except mash away on my main magic attack to build up Fury, and then use a couple of Fury blasts, dodge, and then repeat. After a while though, it did get a lot more fun. You start fighting more enemies at a time, and that made positioning more vital, and after unlocking a few skills, I had a lot more options. I started off with a skill called Stasis that basically freezes an enemy, and I pretty much ignored it for the first quarter of the game, but after I leveled it up a bit, it became really overpowered, and it could affect an entire group of enemies, so I ended up using it in every fight. In terms of character progression, there is a good amount of customization to be found. You have 3 main trees to level up, which are attributes, talents and skills, and each of these will get points to use at different times in the game. Skills get a point at every level, whereas talents only get a point every few levels, which means you do have to put some thought into your development. Skills are of course your weapon skills, and there are special abilities to unlock at certain points of the tree. Attributes affect things like your weapon damage and mana pool, and talents are things like charisma, lockpicking, vigor, which allows you to climb certain terrain or jump across gaps, and science, which affects your crafting. They all have an impact on the gameplay, though some more than others, and certain talents will allow new dialogues in conversations or new ways to approach a situation, like blowing open a hole in the wall to let you sneak in the back of a building, because explosions are always a key part of being stealthy. Along your journey, you will meet and talk to a lot of different characters, and some of these will join you on your adventure.
I will accompany you, and then we can take the road together.
You can have 2 of these companions with you at any one time, and they are actually pretty useful in combat. They all have different combat styles and special skills like casting a heal or a big special attack.
Bit of poison on my blade.
You can talk to them at any point, and they work off a friendliness meter much like Dragon Age or Mass Effect. They all have their own quest lines, and just like those other games, you can also form relationships with any that you take a liking to. There are some key moments in the game where your companions play major roles, and your party makeup affects how some of these play out. I thought they did a really good job here, and although they have obviously borrowed from other notable games, they did put their own spin on it.
I'm not here to kill you.
Tell me then, what is your intended purpose?
The story of GreedFall is very strong, with a lot of twists and turns, and some truly unexpected moments that actually shocked me. I actually found myself getting emotionally invested in some of the characters, and for me, that's truly a rare thing, because honestly in most games I couldn't care less about most of the characters. There is a lot of talking, but the voice acting is all very good, though I did find myself skipping through a lot of the side quest dialogue after quickly reading the text. If I'd listened to all of it, I'd probably still be sitting there listening right now. Story missions are all pretty interesting, and the side quests have some nice narrative too. The one area where they fall short for me is that a lot of the quests will see you running all over the map, and I mean a ton of running. Sometimes there would be quests where you would run through a whole region and then a city to talk to someone, then have to run all the way back through the city and the region just to travel to another region that you would have to then run through just to talk to someone else. The world is very nice to look at and there are secrets to be found, but after running through the same region multiple times, I did wish that I could just map fast travel to where I needed to go, rather than having to run to a camp or the edge of the region to travel. This is the biggest downside of the game for me, but I do feel that the strength of the story does make up for some of it, but not all.
Have no fear, Constantine. I will take care of all matters at hand.
Overall, if you're a fan of story-heavy RPGs like Dragon Age and Mass Effect, where the choices you make have a huge impact on the world around you, then you really should give GreedFall a try. It's a bit rough around the edges in some places, but the strength of the story carries it through for the most part. There is a nice amount of character customization to be found, and the variety in the skill trees provides a good amount of choice and replay value, with enough importance to the selections to make you sit and think a bit about what you want to do. That's just about all I have on GreedFall. I did try to keep it as spoiler free as possible because there are some really big spoilers in this game. I hope you enjoyed the video, please give it a like if you did, and as always let me know your thoughts on the game down in the comments. That's all from me on this one, see you in the next one.